Welcome back to Peek into COS. This episode is brought to you from the Studio 809 Community Podcast at the Next Us, a professional cooperative environment for small businesses located in downtown Colorado Springs. Today, we're joined by Amy Whitsell, the founder of a special event in our region called Blues on the Mesa. Welcome to the show, Amy.
Hi.
Great to have you here. Before we get into Blues on the Mesa, let's wind the clock back a little bit, okay, and talk about what originally brought you to Colorado Springs in 1981.
Well, I came out here on a vacation, family vacation in 1980 to visit some relatives, and that turned into a move in 1981.
Wow.
So that's how I got out here.
Amy, it's kind of a long line of people that are in that have that exact same story that we kind of talk with our friends over at the Chamber about. Today's tourist is tomorrow's talent.
Yes.
And so many times people get here and you're taking it back to 1980 and looking around and going, hey, this looks great. Mm-hmm. And the next thing you knew, you were here. So be careful, visitors. When you come, you could end up living here, whether you intended to or not, and you're going to hear Amy talk about it. So so you have founded both the Pikes Peak Blues Community and the Meadow Grass Music Festival. You must have a passion for music. How did that begin?
I do have a great passion for music, but I do need to say I'm not the only founder. There were other people besides me.
Okay.
So we have that clear. I grew up in New York City. My father always had reel-to-reel tapes going. My grandmother would take us to Radio City Music Hall. So I've seen the Rockettes, I've seen Mary Poppins, I've seen the Ed Sullivan Show. I mean, the Empire State Building. I mean, we'd meet the aunts and uncles in the Village or Little Italy.
Sure.
And music was just always playing.
Mm-hmm.
When I got together with my husband, George Whitesell, who's a musician here in town, he was playing blues music. Mm-hmm. I really wasn't familiar with blues music at the time. And I guess I learned to love it.
Yeah.
If he had been in country, it might have been the Pikes Peak Country Community.
Yes.
So it just depended upon where we were at the time.
Sure. Okay. One of the things that we share in common with a love for the blues is I lived in Chicago for about 4 years in the early 80s. And I'd heard of Chicago blues, but until you live there and you get a chance to go to clubs and hear authentic Chicago blues, it's probably where I got hooked and just thought it's an art form that is so unique. How would you describe the blues to a young person who doesn't know much about the blues?
That's a difficult one for me.
Yeah.
Because I do the business end of music and I'm not the musician.
Sure.
And I get asked questions like this a lot. I guess I could say is if you listen to the words, they make sense. They're part of who we are and what we do. They're who did you love? Who did you leave? Similar to a country song. I mean, it's the same. It's the same thing.
I could see that. I was thinking that same parallel.
So that's really it. I mean, the blues was the original art form of music, and that's how everything else was created, or that's where it came from.
Yes. Yeah. You hear so many accomplished musicians when asked about their roots.
Yes.
And the blues surface.
It's somewhere in there.
It always is. So let's bring it to the business side of it and talk about what inspired you to really start Blues on the Mesa here in Colorado Springs.
I find myself to be an organizer. Maybe it has something to do with my degree in organizational management.
There you go.
And I have 2 minor degrees in marketing and business. So
Perfect.
There was a need for it. We started the Pikes Peak Blues Community because we did not want to join with the Colorado Blues Society. there was too much distance between us. That was really it.
In distance meaning
Miles.
miles.
So
Okay,
for
got
the
it.
most part, the Colorado Blues Society does operate throughout the state, but they're more northern.
Okay.
So instead of having to drive from here to a meeting, we decided to start our own nonprofit.
Yeah.
And I very much like the word community better than society.
Yeah.
So we were a community of people who loved music.
And what year did you start it?
That was 2003.
Okay. And talk about the baby steps. What were some of the first things that you did to get the society or get everything going for our community?
Well, first of all, we had to start a nonprofit.
Yep.
So that meant finding an attorney who would help us. We got that done. We had lots of help. I mean, there was different people at the time in different jobs. Let me say it that way. So I believe Susan Edmondson was with the B. Vradenberg Foundation at that time.
Okay.
And she helped give us a grant for learning how to be a board.
Okay.
So we had a lot of instruction. We also started out as an incubator project at the
Okay.
Business of Art Center.
All right.
And it was Dan Wex who was coaching us at the time until
Okay.
we became our own nonprofit.
So you formed your nonprofit. Have you had a performance yet? Or are you still?
No,
No.
at that point, the Navajo Hogan was around, and
Yeah.
that's where
Yeah.
we all kind of met and went to the jams. Each of the founding members put in $100.
Okay.
And it gave us some money to start with.
Yeah.
Seed money. And that's really where it started. From there, we did Paint the Town Blue. We did a couple of different programs, one at UCCS, Our Next Generation, and it was with 2 national acts. And again, every time we've done a big show like that, we always made sure to get a youth from our community that played well on stage with these musicians.
Right.
So we've had several youth from our community on stage with these national acts.
What a dream come true.
Yes.
That is for them as well. I remember Blues Under the Bridge.
Yes.
I mean, when I first moved here in 2011, Blues Under the Bridge was happening in downtown Colorado Springs.
Yes, it was.
And that was an eye opener for me, having moved here from the DC area and had never experienced an event like that. And so that to me was awesome. And what I wonder if you can describe for listeners who've not been to Blues on the Mesa.
Okay.
Set the stage. What can they expect?
Okay. So first, I have so many questions. People asking me, is Blues Under the Bridge coming back? And the answer is no.
Right.
And that was the reason why Blues on the Mesa started.
Yep.
Blues Under the Bridge went away before the pandemic. Blues on the Mesa started right after the pandemic.
Right.
What was your question, Doug?
So now I'm walking into Gold Hill Mesa, and I've got our parties together, but it's my first time. What can people expect to experience?
Well, first of all, the day before the festival, we send out to everyone who's purchased a ticket a map. And it lets you know what the area kind of looks like, where you can sit, where there'll be food vendors, where there'll be adult drinks, other vendors. So all that is sent to them so that they have it electronically.
Good.
As we all know, life is getting expensive, so if we can eliminate a program, that does help.
There you go.
It's almost a natural amphitheater setting.
It is, isn't it? Yeah, very much so.
With the
Yeah.
mountains, Pikes Peaks in the background.
Yeah.
So you have this lush lawn. You'll have a big stage. It's daytime. People will be filing in. They love to run in and put their chairs down. We do have a place that has room for some pop-up tents because there's very little shade there. And not everyone loves to sit in the sun all day, and I understand that.
Right.
The gamut on food, any allergies we'll be covering. If you're vegan,
Food trucks.
vegetarian, yes.
Yeah.
Keto, dairy-free, gluten-free. We have the water truck from CSU, Colorado Springs Utilities. You don't have to pay for water if you don't want to. That's a little pet peeve of mine.
Yeah.
Because I'm a huge water drinker.
Right.
And I don't mind paying for some water,
Yeah.
but it starts to get very pricey.
It does.
What else can we expect? We will have a logoed guitar by a local artist, Roberto Rodriguez, and he gives us a logoed guitar each year. All the artists sign it, and we raffle it off.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be a silent auction. There'll be lots of adult beverages.
Yeah. Do you have to be 21 to come?
You do not have to be 21. In fact, any child 16 and under will get in free with an adult ticket because we're encouraging people to bring families. I mean, you need to expose children to live music for them to appreciate live music.
Sure.
And you don't have to say, sit down and be quiet.
Yeah.
You can walk around, you could talk, but you'll be hearing the music.
You bet. You bet. Okay. Well, I know that this year's date is September 28th. Talk a little bit about what time the gates open and talk to us a little bit about the music that people can expect to hear.
Okay. Gates will open at 11 to give the artists as much time as we can. Music starts at 11:15. I realize that doesn't leave for a long time, but I want to give each of the acts at least an hour to play. The first act going on is the Johnny O Band. They're from the Boulder Winter Park area.
Okay.
I'm not sure they've played down here in Colorado Springs, and that's what I like to do, bring acts that we haven't seen.
Sure.
Because a lot of acts, and there's nothing wrong with them, but if you can go see them free anytime, it's not special to have them on a festival.
Right.
That's my opinion.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
The next act after that will be Rex Peoples and X Factor. Rex, I've known him for years. He's a wonderful vocalist. He doesn't play an instrument. He's just a vocalist backed by his band. And he's going to bring a little twist to his music, and we're going to just let that be a surprise.
There you go.
Next one is Eve and the Blues Express. She's amazing. She's a guitarist. I would say we don't have a lot of local female lead guitarists.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I try to mix things up with color, with instruments, the gamut.
Yeah.
After that is Davina and the Vagabonds. Davina's been here a few times. I've had her here, a couple of different venues. She is from the Minnesota area, so she'll be coming here with her band. I find her amazing. I'm very much a fan of Amy Winehouse, and I feel that there's a lot of similarity between them.
Okay.
So we'll just leave it at that. You can form your own opinion. And then there's Tommy Castro. I mean, I've been bringing Tommy to town since 2006. So he was thrilled to be asked to play on my festival because we do have a history together, and we've known each other for many years.
And where's Tommy come from?
Tommy's coming from the Bay Area of California.
Okay.
And he'll be out here with his band. And just, I mean, all of these artists are just phenomenal in their own right, deserve to be headliners.
Sure.
But someone always has to be first, and someone always has to be last.
And the festival wraps up around 8:30?
No, actually, the festival ends at 6:30.
6:30.
And we follow that with a VIP party for those who wish to purchase a VIP ticket.
Okay.
It's 6:30 to 8:30. It's inside because when that sun goes down, end of October, we don't know. End of September.
Yeah, sure.
We don't know what that weather's going to be like.
Sure.
Inside, we'll have 4 different restaurants, 2 breweries, 2 distilleries, wine,
Right.
desserts, and there'll be music inside from a solo performer.
Yeah.
So you could just have a meet and greet with the artists
All
and
day.
mingle.
That's awesome. You know, for listeners, you know, as you heard Amy describe the setting, for those of you who are residents that may have never gone over to see this Gold Hill Amphitheater, it's just up the hill from Norris Penrose Event Center. And one of the things that, you know, we talk about with the Pikes Peak Bus Rodeo is there is just no better setting. I mean, people, you can look one way and you're just looking at musicians, you're looking up and you're seeing the vista of what makes this place so special, and probably one of the reasons you moved here and the rest of us moved here was to take it all in. So it's a environment and a setting that if you haven't come over to the west side of Colorado Springs to see it, it really is worth coming to see.
And let me just say, you can get to it either from 21st Street or Lower Gold Camp Road.
Right. Yeah.
It's not hard to get to. If you're coming to the festival off I-25, you take 24 west,
Right.
turn left on 21st Street, and make the left at the Gold Hill Mesa sign. I mean, it's that easy.
Sure. And let's talk about the website address.
Yes. It's bluesonthemesa.org.
Bluesonthemesa.org.
This year's beneficiary is the Children's Literacy Center. When I put in a grant, I said, most people need to know how to read to play music.
Yeah.
So we're getting them on board this year.
That's wonderful.
I try to change nonprofits each year. As you know, we have an abundance of very needy, very worthy nonprofits here in town.
We do.
So if we can all spread the wealth a little.
So, Amy, let's pivot a little bit because, we're talking about Blues on the Mesa, which is September 28th of this year, but that may be for a visitor. They may not be here on that.
Correct.
So, on that date. So, let's talk a little more big picture about the live music scene in the Colorado Springs area. You've seen it obviously change.
Oh, I've seen it grow tremendously.
Sure. So talk to people about some things that they might expect, or to residents that may not know some of the things that you know that you would recommend.
Well, let me say this. I've been doing the Gold Hill Mesa concert series. This is year 14. When we started this, and it went on a few years before me, we didn't have the concert series that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
This summer, I don't believe that there was a day you could not go see free music. If you just have to drive to where it is.
Sure.
But there's free concert series all over this town, which is so wonderful.
Right.
Because most of them are family oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And what a cool way to just bring the family.
Yeah. Throw one out that's like one of your faves that people might not know about.
A concert series?
Yeah. A free concert series. Yeah.
I have to say Gold Hill Mesa.
Of course.
That's one of them. A new one that I haven't been to as much as I want to, but Creek Walk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a new one.
Yep.
Down off of Cheyenne Road in Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
It's an intimate, cute little setting, separated by a little stream going through.
It is, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Also, the Broadmoor Community Church.
Okay.
Again, if you don't know about these things, check them out. You don't have to go to church to go to this series.
Sure, right.
Just bring a chair. It's set in just a gorgeous setting.
Mm-hmm. Well, all right, and then would we go and start talking about paid live music?
Sure.
Our city has really changed, particularly. Well, not only indoors, but outdoors.
We've
Talk a little
changed
bit about
north
that.
and south.
Yes,
we went
north and
from
south.
Widener Field to the Ford Amphitheater.
Yes.
And everything in between.
Yeah.
So we have those two huge venues, which are outside venues.
Yep.
If you go from the north-south, you have the Boot Barn.
Mm-hmm.
Down here, we have the Pikes Peak Center. We have the World Arena.
Yep.
We have the gamut.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started doing my business in 2006, there were very few national acts that were coming down from 70 to perform here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I did was bring in national recording artists and produce shows.
Yeah.
So that's what started our business. I must say, things that changed it some was the fire and the flood many years ago in 2013.
Right.
So I say we survived a fire, a flood, and a pandemic.
Yeah.
And we're still here.
Yeah, I mean that's our friends at Flying W are the testament to being rising from the ashes to be able to have the Wranglers and live music
Yes.
again at Flying W. So really, yeah.
And there's some people that don't know we experienced that, but it
Yeah.
really was a horrific time for our town.
Yeah, there's no denying it. And I think, when I think about, use one of the venues that you mentioned with Widener Field. I mean, Widener Field didn't exist 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And people know it primarily as the home to the Switchbacks, and it's an outdoor soccer venue that seats about 8,000 people. But it was always in the plans to offer not only outdoor graduations for high schools and colleges, but also to do live music.
Sure,
and
big concerts.
They've had some big concerts, and one of the things that they're really proud of is the fact that they draw people from out of town. They definitely have people who come to see those acts, and I think that we are going to see a similar trait happen up at the Ford Amphitheater. And I've heard you say it, Amy, but the idea of being able to stay home and spend your money locally on entertainment, how do you feel
That's
about
huge. I mean, when I used to get up on the stage and say, if you don't want to have to drive to Denver, if you don't want to have to pay, $20+ to park and $10+ for a beer, support the music that we have here.
Correct.
And I'm hearing and seeing a lot of that on Facebook. People are very happy that they don't have to go to Denver. There's nothing wrong with Denver,
Right.
folks.
Yeah,
Let me say that.
Yeah,
There's
right.
nothing wrong with Denver.
Yeah.
But when you could do something in your own town
Support
and
it.
don't have to travel to do that, it helps the economy throughout Colorado Springs.
Yes, and we know that we're already reading articles as we do this interview. The Ford Amphitheater is brand new, and they're already talking about how entertainment is getting booked differently in the state of Colorado now.
Yes.
Because of having this venue. And so for us, it's I think you're right. We just need to remind residents, who often are the people who invite visitors to come stay with them, that as you're putting itineraries together, think about the live music scene that we have in Colorado Springs and Manitou and different places where you can go, and it may not have been something that was top of mind 15 years ago.
Correct.
But as it is becoming more and more a part of our culture, I hope that people will.
And what's nice is a lot of venues are booking earlier music, so it's not all starting at 8 and 9 o'clock at night.
Right.
Some is starting at 5, some is
Sure.
starting at 6. So there's music there for everyone. You just have to open the page and look for it.
Sure. Amy, let's take a minute and talk about Meadow Grass.
Okay. What would you like to say?
Well, I'm going to let you just tell listeners about how special Memorial Day weekend here is with the Meadow Grass Festival. And I know, did you start it?
I started it with some other people.
Yep.
I got a phone call. Laura Long used to work for Bristol. The CEO of La Ferret came down to Bristol, said, I want to put on a festival. Can you help me? Mm-hmm. Next thing I know, my phone is ringing. We have 3 weeks to put a lineup together. We did. It was great. Funny story about that. We brought in a stage that was similar to what the city used to have as a showmobile.
Okay.
Now, for those of you who are not familiar, it was kind of like a long trailer that opened up to a stage. And we brought that in and we put it at the bottom of the field, or I guess the west side of the field, and it sunk to its axles. And that's where it stayed until a tow truck came and pulled it out. But we went on with the show.
Sure.
That was the first year. It was called Bluegrass in the Pines. The second year, other people came on board. It was changed to Meadow Grass, and it's just grown since then.
What year was the first year? Roughly?
I want to say about 2009.
Okay.
I believe.
Yeah. All right.
I think that's about right. And it's grown. I was there this year, took my motorhome, see people that I knew from years ago. I haven't been involved with the festival for several years.
Okay.
And when I was with them, one of my jobs was I managed the merchandise tent.
Okay.
We had people that would come up to us and say, we had boxes for people because they would buy so much. They'd say, just throw this in our box. And
Yeah,
at the end,
yeah.
these people are still coming to this
That's great.
festival.
That's great.
So it is. And
Yeah.
the kids that would come as they've grown up, again, no one said, sit down, be quiet.
Right.
Run around, have fun, but you can hear the music.
Listen, that's great. Okay. Before we wrap, I want to
Yes.
take a break here to shout out some exciting news from Visit Colorado Springs. Our annual Crafts and Drafts Passport, which runs through December 31st this year, is available for more than 20 participating businesses. The free passport gives you access to deals and discounts at craft beverage spots throughout the region. So whether you're a coffee fanatic or love a good IPA, get deals and rewards that really are something to write home about. Sign up now at visitcos.com/passport. All right, so Amy, 1981
Yes.
was when you moved here. So you are very qualified to describe Colorado Springs in 3 words.
Community.
Community.
I'll give that one word. Collaborative. I'll give that another word.
Okay.
And I'll think about that, and I'll let you
come
know
back.
the third one in just a moment.
Just a second. Okay. Do you have a favorite hidden gem anywhere in the Pikes Peak region that you love to go to just to find yourself and relax?
I do. And it's not on any map that most people know about. You have to have lived here. I love to go down Mesa Road towards the canyon and watch all of these sculptures spin. This is a gentleman who's no longer with us, Starkemp.
Yep.
Some of his sculptures are over by UCCS,
Yes.
and I think there's a few more other parts of town, but they're just magnificent. They're soothing.
Yeah, it's to the
On a
entrance
windy
of-
day.
Yeah, to the entrance of Seven Falls.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's great. You're right. It's not on a map. In all your years of living here, do you still have something on your bucket list that you would say, you know what, Doug, I haven't done this one yet. This is something we'd like to go to.
That's an interesting question, Doug, because I've done mostly
Right.
everything.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, the last thing on my bucket list has to do with a trip with my daughter.
Oh, yeah.
And she doesn't live here, so
Okay. So that's something you want to go do.
yes.
Okay. Have you come back? Can you come back to that third word on describing Colorado Springs?
So we used community, we used
Collaborative.
collaborative, and friendly.
And friendly.
Friendly.
Okay.
I find most people to be friendly.
That's fair. I match that with you. I can agree that. I will tell you an idea for a trip with your daughter. Last summer, our son and I went to Iceland
Okay.
and the Faroe Islands. Most people have not heard of the Faroe Islands, but for us, that was our father-son trip that we did in August of 2023, and we look back on it fondly. And so the most important part about that was getting the date set. Once we get the
Yes.
date, then let's figure out where we're going to go. So that's what I would encourage you and your daughter. If you guys can come up with the window of time, amazing what you'll do. But Amy, thank you for being with us. Tell us again, remind listeners of where they can get information for Blues on the Mesa.
Sure. Thank you. The website for Blues on the Mesa is bluesonthemesa.org. Tickets are on sale right now. You can only purchase them online.
Right? And the date is?
The date is Saturday, September 28th. Gates will open at 11. As previously mentioned, children 16 and under are free with a paid ticket. Bring a chair, or we will have a few there to borrow if you forget it.
Okay, that's awesome. Amy, thanks for being with us. Thanks for what you've brought to Colorado Springs for those of us who live here and for those who work here and for those who get to play here and listen to music that we wouldn't otherwise get a chance to listen to. So thank you.
Well, thank you.